My dad once looked me in the eyes and said something I will never forget. "You're just not worth the investment, Emily." He said it calmly, like he was talking about numbers, like I was a bad stock. And the worst part, my mom didn't say a word. She just looked away. "My sister, Sarah," she smiled, because in our family, there were only two roles, the golden child and the backup. Sarah was perfect, straight A's, leadership awards, full support. Every dream she had, my parents funded it. Every mistake, they forgave it. Me, I was the practical one. That's what they called me, which really meant I was the one they didn't believe in, the one they didn't invest in. And the day that proved it? College, same week, 2 acceptance letters. Sarah got into a top private university, $65,000 a year. My parents didn't hesitate. Full tuition, a room, everything. They were proud. Then they looked at me. I got into a solid state school. $25,000 a year, still expensive, but manageable. Right? Wrong. My dad leaned back in his chair and said it again. "Emily, you'll have to figure it out yourself." No apology, no hesitation. Then the line that stayed with me for years. "You're not worth the investment." That night, I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at the ceiling, and realized something. I wasn't their daughter. I was their low-return asset. But what they didn't know was that decision would change everything. And 4 years later, in front of hundreds of people, they would have no choice but to see me. If you think that moment was the worst, it wasn't, because this didn't start in college. It started years earlier. In our house, love had a ranking system, and I was never at the top. When we turned 16, Sarah got a brand new car. Red bow, driveway reveal, photos, celebration. Me? I got her old laptop, cracked screen, battery that lasted maybe 40 minutes. My mum smiled and said, "We can't afford 2 cars, Emily." But somehow they could afford Sarah's trips, her clothes, her private tutors, her everything. Family vacations were worse. Sarah always had her own room, ocean view, king bed. I slept on whatever was left. Couch, floor, once even a storage nook they called cozy. And every photo, Sarah in the center, smiling, perfect. Me, cut off at the edge, sometimes literally, like I wasn't supposed to be there. I remember asking my mum once. I was 17, I just needed an answer. "Why does it always feel like I come second?" She sighed. Didn't even look at me. "You're imagining things, Emily." But I wasn't, because actions don't lie. A few months before college decisions, I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. My mum's phone, unlocked. A message to my aunt. Just one line, but it said everything. Poor Emily. But she just doesn't stand out. I stood there, reading it over and over again. Doesn't stand out. That was me. Not bad, not terrible, just forgettable. That night, something changed. Not anger, not sadness, something colder. I stopped trying to be seen and started planning how to win. Because if I wasn't their investment, then I would become something else, something they couldn't ignore. But first, I had to survive. On my own, survive. That word stayed in my head all night because the math was simple. Tuition, $25,000 a year. 4 years, so $100,000. My savings, $2,300. That was it. No help, no backup, no safety net, just me. And 3 options. Drop out before I even started, take on massive debt and carry it for decades, or stretch everything, work full-time, study part-time, and hope I didn't break. Every path led to the same place, Failure. The exact thing my dad already decided I was. I could already hear it. Thanksgiving dinners. Sarah is doing amazing. And Emily, she's still figuring things out. No, I wasn't going to become that story. So I did the only thing I could. I opened my laptop, the broken one, and started searching. Scholarships, grants, anything. Hundreds of tabs. Most were useless, scams, expired deadlines, requirements I couldn't meet. But I kept going, hour after hour, night after night, until I found something. A merit program at my school. Full tuition, plus a living stipend. The catch? 5 students out of thousands. I stared at the screen and almost laughed. 5? What were the chances? But I saved it anyway. Then I found another one, the Whitmore Scholarship. Full ride, plus $10,000 a year. Only 20 students in the entire country. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about being likely. It was about being possible. I had 2 choices, accept the life they gave me, or build my own. So I made a decision. No one knew about, no announcements, no big speech, just a quiet promise to myself. If they wouldn't invest in me, I would. And one day, they would see the return. College didn't feel like a fresh start. It felt like survival. Day 1. Everyone was excited. Dorm tours, new friends, parents helping them move in. I arrived alone, 1 suitcase, no send-off, no photos, no "we're proud of you." Just me and a room that didn't feel like mine. Classes started fast. So did the pressure. Because while everyone else was adjusting, I was calculating every dollar, every hour, rent, books, food, everything had a cost. So I got a job, coffee shop, 6 a.m. shifts, before class, then lectures, then library, then back to work. Closing shift, sometimes midnight, sometimes later. I lived on coffee and whatever I could afford. There were nights I skipped meals just to make rent. There were weeks I slept 4 hours a night, sometimes less. And the worst part, watching Sarah through photos, perfect dorm, new clothes, weekend trips, smiling like life was easy. Because for her, it was. Funded, supported, guaranteed. While I was counting coins to buy groceries. But I didn't complain. I didn't call home because I already knew what they'd say. You chose this? No, they chose it for me. So I kept going, quietly, relentlessly. I studied harder than anyone I knew, not because I was gifted, but because I had no choice. Failure wasn't an option. It was a confirmation of everything they believed about me. And I refused to give them that, semester after semester. I pushed, grades climbing, slow at first, then faster, until something started to change. Professors noticed my work, my discipline, my results. For the first time, someone saw me, not as second best, not as practical, but as exceptional. And that scared me, because if I kept going, if I actually made it, then one day, they would have to face it. But before that moment came, there was one more obstacle, one I didn't see coming. By my second year, something changed. Not just my grades, my chances. I was at the top of my class, not by luck, by obsession. Every assignment, perfect. Every exam, calculated. Every hour, accounted for. And for the first time, those scholarships didn't feel impossible anymore. They felt close, too close. I applied to everything, every program, every grant, every opportunity I could find. Essays at 2 a.m., applications between shifts. Recommendations from professors who finally knew my name. For once, I wasn't invisible. I was a contender. And then the email came. Subject line, finalist selection. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't open it. Couldn't. Because if I opened it and it said no, I didn't know if I had anything left. But I did it anyway. I clicked. Congratulations. You have been selected as a finalist. Finalist? Top 5 out of thousands. My hands were shaking. This was it. One more step and everything changes. No more debt. No more survival mode. No more proving them right. Just freedom. But there was a catch. Of course there was. Finalists had to attend an interview, in person, 3 days. Formal evaluation, panel review, and one requirement I couldn't ignore. Travel, hotel, clothes, costs I couldn't afford. Not even close. I checked my account. $187. That was all I had left. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, doing the math again. Always the math. Ticket, stay, food. Impossible. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt it again. That voice, the one my dad planted in my head. You're not worth the investment. Because maybe he was right. Maybe this was the moment it all fell apart. Not because I failed, but because I couldn't even show up. I almost gave up, closed my laptop, told myself, you tried, that's enough. But something in me wouldn't let it go. Because if I walked away now, then everything they believed about me would become true. And I couldn't let that happen. Not like this. Not when I was this close. So I made a decision, a risky one. One that could either save everything or destroy it completely. I had $187 and a decision to make. Walk away or show up anyway, even if it broke me. So I did something. That made no sense. I booked the ticket. One way, no return plan, no backup, just faith. Then I looked at what I had left. Not much. So I sold things, my laptop, the same one I used for everything, gone, extra clothes, old textbooks, anything that had value. I picked up more shifts, double shifts, sometimes back to back. No sleep, no margin for error. Every dollar mattered. By the time the trip came, I had just enough. Barely. Flight booked. Cheap motel. Not a hotel, a motel. The kind where the lights flicker and the walls feel thin. But it didn't matter. Because I made it. Day 1 of the interview. I walked in alone. Everyone else. Polished, confident, prepared. Parents funding them, coaches guiding them, connections everywhere. I had none of that. Just a borrowed outfit. And a story no one wanted. The panel sat across from me. 3 people. Cold. Professional. Evaluating everything. Grades. Background. Potential. Then one of them asked, "Tell us about your support system." Support system. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I looked them in the eyes and told the truth. I don't have one. Silence. You could feel it. Heavy, uncomfortable, but I didn't stop. I worked 2 jobs to be here. I paid for everything myself, and I almost didn't make it because I couldn't afford the trip. No pity, no drama, just facts. Then I said the only thing that mattered. If you're looking for someone safe, don't pick me. Pause. If you're looking for someone who won't quit, no matter what. I leaned forward. Then I'm your best investment. No one spoke. No reaction, just notes being written, faces unreadable. And in that moment, I had no idea if I had just won everything or lost it all. The interview ended just like that. No applause, no reaction, no hint. Just a handshake and a polite, "We'll be in touch." That was it. 3 days for one sentence. I walked out of that building with nothing, no answer. No certainty, just silence. The flight back felt longer, heavier, because now there was nothing left to do. No more applications, no more chances. This was it. everything came down to one decision that wasn't mine. I went back to work the next morning, 6 a.m. shift, same coffee shop, same routine, like nothing had changed, but everything had, because now I knew what was possible, and that made waiting worse. Every notification, my heart jumped. Every email felt like a verdict. Yes or no, future or failure. Days passed, then a week. Nothing. I told myself not to think about it. Focused on classes, on work, on surviving again. But it was always there, in the background, like a clock ticking, towards something I couldn't control. And then, 2 weeks later, it happened. I was behind the counter, hands moving automatically. Coffee, change, next. When my phone buzzed, unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something told me, don't. So I picked up. Hello? Pause. Then a voice, calm, professional. This is the Whitmore Foundation. My grip tightened. We've reviewed your interview. Silence. 1 second, 2. It felt like everything stopped. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just about money anymore. It wasn't just about school. It was about everything they believed about me and whether they were right or wrong. We'd like to offer you. I stopped breathing. But before they finished, someone called my name. Emily, we need you up front. I turned just for a second, just long enough to miss the next words. And when I looked back, the line went silent. The line went silent. I froze. Hello? Hello? Nothing. Call dropped. Of course it did. I stood there, heart pounding, trying to replay what I heard. We'd like to offer you. Offer me what? My hands were shaking. I couldn't think straight. Customers were waiting. My manager was calling. But none of it mattered. I needed to know now. I stepped away, pulled out my phone, dialed the number back. Once, no answer. Twice, still nothing. Third time, it rang. And this time, they picked up.
Whitmore Foundation. My voice almost cracked. This is Emily. I think we got disconnected. Pause. Typing in the background. Then, yes, Emily. We were just speaking. My grip tightened again. And then they said it. Clear. Calm. Final. We'd like to offer you the Whitmore Scholarship. Everything stopped. Noise disappeared. Time slowed down. Full ride. Plus $10,000 a year. 4 years. Paid. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was free. Emily? Are you still there? Yes. Barely a whisper. Yes, I'm here. They continued. Details. Paperwork. Next steps. But I wasn't listening anymore. Not really. Because one thought kept repeating in my head. They were wrong. My dad. My mom. Every moment they dismissed me. Every time they chose Sarah. Every time they said, I wasn't worth it. They were wrong. I walked back to the counter, but everything felt different. Same place. Same job. Same uniform. But not the same person. Because now, I had something they never gave me. Proof. Not for them. For me. I finished my shift in silence. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because I knew this wasn't the moment. The real moment was still coming. The one where they would see it. Not hear about it. Not be told. See it. With their own eyes. In front of everyone. And when that moment came, there would be no excuses. No denial. No way to ignore me. Because the daughter they didn't invest in was about to become their biggest return. 4 years. That's how long it took. 4 years to rebuild everything. With the scholarship, everything changed. No more double shifts. No more choosing between food and rent. For the first time, I could focus. Fully. Classes. Projects. Growth. And I didn't waste it. I pushed harder. Not out of fear anymore, but out of clarity. Because now I knew what I was capable of. Semester after semester, my name started showing up. Dean's List. Top rankings. Academic awards. The same professors who barely noticed me before, now asked for my input. My ideas. My work. Opportunities opened. Research projects. Internships. Connections I never had access to before. And I said yes to all of it. Not because I needed to prove anything, but because I could. Meanwhile, my family stayed the same. Same dynamic. Same hierarchy. Same silence. We barely spoke. Occasional texts. Short calls. Surface-level conversations. Like strangers, pretending to be family. They still talked about Sarah. Her job. Her life. Her achievements. But now, something was different. They started asking about me. Small questions. Careful tone. Like they weren't sure who I was anymore. And the truth? They weren't wrong. Because I wasn't the same person. Not even close. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their attention. I didn't need anything from them. And that changed everything. Final year came faster than I expected. And with it, one last announcement. Graduation. A ceremony. Thousands of people. Families. Faculty. Guests. And one role that only went to one student. Valedictorian. Top of the entire class. Highest GPA. Strongest record. The best. I saw the email and didn't react. Not at first. Because part of me already knew. I had done the work. I had earned it. But still, seeing it in writing felt different. Emily Thompson, Valedictorian. I read it again. Then again. Just to be sure. This was it. Not just success. Not just proof. This was a stage. A moment. One they couldn't ignore. I thought about telling them. Calling. Texting. Letting them know in advance. But I didn't. Because for once, I didn't want them to hear it. I wanted them to see it. Live. In real time. No filters. No explanations. Just the truth, standing right in front of them. And when that day came, everything would change. Graduation day came faster than I expected. Thousands of seats. Families filling the auditorium. Cameras. Noise. Celebration. Everyone dressed for the moment. Including them. My parents. Front row. Of course. Sarah sitting between them. Smiling. Confident. They came for her. Not me. They didn't even know. I was there. I stood backstage, in a black gown, holding a speech no one expected me to give. My hands were steady. Not because I wasn't nervous, but because I had already lived through worse. The announcer started calling names. One by one. Students walked across the stage. Applause. Photos. Smiles. Routine. Predictable. Then, everything changed. And now, pause. You could feel it. The shift. The valedictorian of this year's graduating class. Silence filled the room. I stepped forward. Not rushed. Not hesitant. Calm. Controlled. And delivering this year's keynote speech. Another pause. I looked. Out. Straight into the crowd. And for the first time, I saw them. My dad. Leaning forward. Confused. My mom, eyes searching. Trying to understand. And please welcome, my name echoed through the entire auditorium. Emily Thompson. Time stopped. You could see it on their faces. Shock. Pure shock. My dad didn't clap. Not at first. He just stared. Like his brain couldn't process it. My mom's hand slowly covered her mouth. Sarah froze. Smile gone. Eyes locked on me. Because the daughter they ignored, the one they didn't invest in, was now standing at the center of everything. In front of hundreds of people. With no way to look away. I walked to the podium. Every step felt different. Heavier. Stronger. Real. The applause started building. Louder. And louder. Until it filled the entire room. But I didn't look at the crowd. I looked at them. Held it. Just for a second. Long enough for it to sink in. Then I turned, faced the microphone, and took a breath. Because this wasn't just a speech. This was the moment. The one they never saw coming. The one they couldn't ignore. And when I started speaking, I made sure every word hit exactly where it needed to. I looked out at the crowd, thousands of faces. Smiling. Waiting. But I wasn't speaking to them. Not really. I took a breath, and began. 4 years ago, pause. I sat in a room, while my future was decided for me. Silence. I was told something. I will never forget. I let it hang. Just for a second. Then, that I wasn't worth the investment. You could feel it. The shift in the room. Subtle. But real. I wasn't the smartest. I wasn't the most talented. Pause. But I was the one who didn't quit. I didn't rush. Didn't raise my voice. Just steady. Controlled. I worked jobs, before class, after class, sometimes both. I counted every dollar. Every hour. I watched people around me move forward with support. Pause. While I figured it out alone. A few heads nodded. People were listening now. Really listening. But somewhere along the way, I softened my tone. I realized something. This wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about proving myself right. Silence again. Then, if no one invests in you, I leaned slightly closer to the mic. Invest in yourself. A beat. Because one day, you become the return. The room erupted. Applause. Loud. Sustained. But I didn't react. Not yet. Because I wasn't finished. I looked up again. Straight at them. My parents. Still frozen. Still processing. And I added one last line. Quiet. But clear. Some people see your value early. Pause. Others need to be shown. I stepped back. Applause exploded. But I didn't look at the crowd. I looked at my dad. And for the first time in my life, he couldn't look away. The applause felt distant. Muted. Like it belonged to someone else. I stepped off the stage, heart steady. Breathing slow. Because the moment I waited for was already over. And somehow, it didn't feel the way I thought it would. No rush. No explosion. Just quiet. I walked past rows of people. Smiles. Congratulations. hands reaching out. But I barely noticed. Because I knew they were coming. And they did. Right outside the auditorium. My parents. Waiting. Not sitting. Not talking. Just waiting. Like they didn't know what to do next. My dad stepped forward first. Suit still perfect. But his face wasn't. "We're proud of you." Same words. Different tone. Slower. Heavier. Like they actually meant something now. I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't feel anything I used to feel. No anger. No need. No expectation. Just distance. My mom stood beside him. Smiling, but her eyes never quite met mine. Sarah was there too. Quiet. For once. No spotlight. No confidence. Just watching. "This was incredible, Emily," my dad added. "We didn't know, exactly." They didn't. And that was the point. I nodded slightly. "Thank you." Simple. Polite. Nothing more. He waited. Like he expected something else. A reaction. An opening. Maybe even forgiveness. But I didn't give it. Because I didn't owe it. Not in this moment. "Are you planning to continue your studies?" he asked. Same voice. Same structure. Like nothing had changed. But everything had. "I'll decide," I said. Calm. Short. Controlled. I saw it in his eyes. Confusion. Because this wasn't the version of me he knew. This wasn't the girl who needed approval. Who waited for validation. Who tried to be enough. That version was gone. "I've got opportunities," I added. Options. Another pause. Longer this time. Because now, they were the ones catching up. Trying to understand who I had become. Students walked past us. Some recognized me. "Great speech. Incredible message. You deserved it." I thanked them. One by one. And every time, I felt something shift. People weren't looking through me anymore. They were looking at me. Seeing me. For the first time, I turned back to my parents. And realized something. I had spent years trying to earn their attention. Their approval. Their investment. And now, they were the ones trying to earn mine. "Congratulations," my mom said softly. Still not meeting my eyes. I nodded again. "Thanks." Then I paused. Just for a second. Long enough to choose my words. "Everything I have," I said slowly. I built it myself. No anger. No accusation. Just truth. And that truth landed harder than anything else I could have said. I stepped back. Not running. Not escaping. Just moving forward. Because this wasn't about leaving them behind. It was about not needing them anymore. And that changed everything. That night, I went home alone. No celebration. No family dinner. No "we're proud of you" moment. Just silence. And for the first time in my life, it felt right. I sat in my apartment, still in my graduation gown, and looked around. Small space. Simple furniture. Nothing fancy. But everything was mine. Every chair. Every book. Every dollar that paid for it. Mine. I took off the gown slowly, folded it, and placed it on the chair. Not as a memory. But as a marker. Before and after. My phone buzzed. A message. "Dad. We're really proud of you, Emily." I stared at it. Longer than I expected. Because years ago, those words would have meant everything. They would have fixed something. Filled something. But now? They were just words. Late. Not wrong. Just late. Another message. Sarah. Great speech, Em. You deserved that. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry. But because I didn't need to. For the first time, my life didn't revolve around them. Their approval. Their attention. Their version of me. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the city. Lights everywhere. Movement. Possibility. And for once, it didn't feel distant. It felt reachable. Because I was already there. Not because someone helped me. Not because someone believed in me. But because I didn't stop. I chose this. Every hard decision. Every sacrifice. Every moment I kept going, when it would have been easier to quit. That was mine. And that's when I understood something. This story was never about them. Not really. It wasn't about proving them wrong. Or making them regret anything. It was about becoming someone who didn't need their approval to exist. To succeed. To matter. I picked up my phone again. Opened my messages. And typed one line. Simple. Clear. I've got this now. Then I locked the screen. Set the phone down. And let the silence stay. Because I didn't need anything else. No validation. No apology. No closure from them. I had already given that to myself. The girl they didn't invest in was gone. And in her place was someone they didn't recognize. Someone they couldn't control. Someone who built her own future from nothing. And this time, I wasn't asking for a place in their story. I was writing my own.